Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Redefining Moments. I'm your host, Kelly, and as always, I'm grateful to have you here today. So, today's episode comes off the back of frustration, and this is an interesting topic for me because for me, I find I hate being in periods of deep frustration, but only 3 episodes ago, I've recorded them back to back, I was feeling low, I was feeling moody, I was feeling frustrated because I wanted to do something and I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was feeling disconnected and uncertain within myself. And within the space of a few hours of reconnecting to something I love and I am passionate about, my energy has increased. I feel inspired, I feel motivated, and I feel a deep sense of joy. And I think through this, I have connected to an idea of what my frustration really means, and I wanted to share it with you. So for me, I hate feeling disconnected. Hate feeling flat. There are periods of my life where I have felt so numb and just empty. It's like I know who I want to be and I know who I wish to be, but something's missing. There's a version of me that's in reach, but I don't know how to connect to her. And this can lead to, I guess, unhealthy coping mechanisms where you get instant gratification and joy. A lot of the time when I feel like this, I will admit I am drawn to dating apps because I want that instant feeling of connection and value. I want to know my worth. And then probably within 24 hours, I regret making the decision. I feel more depleted, low in a completely different way, and I end up deleting the apps. But I think we can end up chasing a quick fix. And actually, the only way I found myself to truly get through these moments is by actually surrendering to them, to respect the fact that I am frustrated, that I am tired, that I'm exhausted, that I feel a sense of burnout or a loss of identity. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think these patterns come through our lives to teach us something. In some cases, they are forced onto us and we don't really have a choice. And in some cases, they just happen. And I found when I sit with these moments, when I sit with my frustration, discomfort, whatever it may be, my sadness, and I just surrender to it and I let it be, amazing things happen. I remember my time, I think I mentioned it at university, when I was having a breakdown because I was like, I'm going to be 20 years old. I have no life experience. Oh, woe is me. How am I going to get a job? How am I going to stand out? The place I want to work for, they're going to have their own students. How am I going to stand out? Why are they going to want to hire me? I'm going to have the same experience as everyone else. And then I started to think, okay, how can I stand out? What can I do? But I was in this spiral, and in those moments, I feel you can go 2 ways. You can either let it win. You can get trapped in it, fixated by it, stuck in it. Or you can lean into it. You can float in the water. It's the difference between being in the water and frantically fighting, using all your energy to try and stay afloat, but really you're just screaming for help, panicking, worrying. But when you relax, when you breathe into the moment and allow your body to just lie there, Allow the weight of the water to hold you. Feel your breath, feel the calm, and feel into the moment. Sometimes the world surprises you. And I remember this also happening with one of my more recent breakups. It was really surreal, and I did think I was losing my mind a tiny bit, I will admit. But I remember being in this moment of overwhelm. This has actually happened twice. The moment the breakup actually happened, and I was told, I don't think I can do this anymore. And I remember looking around the room frantically, trying to catch my breath, thinking about all the million things about where am I going to live, where am I going to go, what am I going to do with all my stuff, like suddenly just spiraling. What am I going to do without this person? And then something hit me. And I took a breath in that moment. And I remember looking at the person who was breaking up with me and breathing into that moment and just seeing their pain, seeing their own hurt of the decision that they were making. And they weren't making that decision lightly. They cared about me. They weren't someone who was just breaking my heart. They were someone who had to make a decision to choose themselves in that moment. And I remember looking at them and going, hold on a second. This isn't just about me. This is also about them. Like, this isn't an easy decision to make. And suddenly I felt so grounded within myself, and this wave of peace came over me. And I ended up walking up to them and going, I'm so grateful for the time we've had together. Like, I've loved every minute of it, and I'm so grateful for it. And don't get me wrong, there were so many waves where I felt good and calm and grounded about the situation. And then I felt hurt and betrayed and upset. But I found I didn't really go through the stages of grief people naturally go through, because I think I instantly engaged with gratitude and acceptance, because I understood the reason why this person who I deeply loved and cared about was making this decision. And I could respect their choice and courage to make that decision. I think also being someone who has broken up with somebody. But I also, I could appreciate the whole situation. Sorry, my dog is barking in the background. I'm just going to give him a moment. He might go off a couple of times. So yeah, I felt this sense of pain and hurt, and also deep, profound acceptance of what was happening in that moment. And then a couple of weeks later, I remember moving my stuff out and being there in the kitchen, and I think they were crying. I was eating a crumpet or an apple or something because I was hungry. And I think I held their hands and I just said, I'm so grateful. Like, the world is so beautiful. I think I was looking out their window and the clouds were coming in, and I was like, the world is so beautiful. And it's those moments, I think, sometimes when you've gone through deep pain, for me, they're like a shock into reality. And the way I described it, because when we broke up, I literally got a journal. I ordered a journal off Amazon straight away. And the first month, I just journaled every single day about my experience. And it was amazing. It was so healing. It gave me an opportunity to like transfer my heartbreak onto the paper and come to terms with it. And there was just these moments of absolute clarity mixed with pain, and it came from that acceptance of the situation, like leaning into it, floating into it, and breathing into it. So sometimes when we surrender to our suffering, it's not, I think this is where it can be misunderstood. It's not surrendering in the sense of just lying down and letting the world hurt you, letting the world just bring you suffering and harm and just kind of taking it and being numb to it. It's kind of just going, I choose not to let this win, or I choose to have a different outlook of the situation. Because you can choose two things. Like with my breakup, for example, I could have hated them. I could have held on to so much pain and anger. How dare you do this to my life? How dare you ruin my life by ending our relationship? I thought we had so much love. I thought we had so much potential. And I could hold on to the expectations of what I felt our relationship could have been. But instead, I chose to look at the gratitude. I chose to look at what we had and what I loved, what I still love about them. I still hold love for a lot of my ex-relationships because they have all, as I said in many episodes, given me such a beautiful experience, and they've shaped my life. Even when they've been assholes, quote unquote, when they might have done something which was sad or horrible, I think back to it and actually I invited that into my life. I'm not saying I deserved it. I'm not saying that their behaviour was acceptable. But in many situations, there have been things that I have allowed in terms of boundaries. And I think that's a lot of what I'm learning at the moment, is how much I'm letting things in. Like a lot of my friends will probably comment in a form of like trying to protect me and telling me I deserve better and things like that. And they would give me opinions. And they know themselves that the people I've been with aren't bad people, but they quite often comment on how their behaviour wasn't good or I deserve better. But in truth, it's like I allowed that. I allowed people to be with me without committing to me. I allowed people to just not choose me. And probably I continued even when there were clear red flags in some situations, because I wanted to see the better in people. And that is okay. I think it's an interesting thing when you start to look at yourself in that sense of, like, one of my biggest strengths is the fact that I can love people very deeply and I can see the best in most human beings. If I really try, I can see the best in most people. And that's amazing. But it does often mean that I give people a lot of wiggle room and space to almost show me that. Like I give excuses essentially. But actually, by giving the excuses, I'm often excusing my own needs and my own wants and my own desires. And I end up, just creating this disconnect. But I realise I've kind of gone from two different topics here. But when I think about the whole frustration, that's what I was talking about, wasn't it? I have a beautiful way of detouring off the topic, and I love that. I love how my mind works. Sometimes I lose track and I'm like, oh yeah, that's what I was talking about. But yeah, if we go back to what I was originally talking about, frustration, all our emotions are important, all of them. And I think frustration often leads to us feeling anger, feeling pain, feeling upset about something. And often frustration is the result of an expectation. It's a result of an unmet desire or a want that isn't going how it should go. And I guess, like, for me, the way I travel for example. Like, I absolutely love going somewhere and not researching, not knowing anything about the place. I love going somewhere, showing up and seeing where it takes me. Because for me, expectation kills my joy. Expectation leads to disappointment. And if I'm seeing a new city or a town, I want to be in awe of that. I do not want to be disappointed. And I think about when I went to Rome, actually. So all of Rome, I didn't know what to expect with Rome. I'd never really seen it. I've seen it a couple of times on TV, like parts of Rome. But when I was there, I was in absolute childlike awe. I was looking around and just like, wow, this is amazing. And then thinking about how people built things, like discovering places. It was absolutely phenomenal and beautiful and outstanding. And when I saw the Trevi Fountain, which I've seen a lot on TV, I remember seeing it and going, is that it? Because my expectations were there already. My expectations of what to expect were already there. So when I saw it, I ended up feeling disappointed because I was like, well, this hasn't lived up to my expectations. And I think it's the case for me with relationships sometimes. What happens is I have this expectation of how it will go. And then I end up being disappointed because it hasn't gone that way. Or maybe I think I speak for a lot of people. Sometimes you have an expectation of how someone will show love to you or how someone will be as a friend or as a connection. And then they don't do what you expect them to do. And then you end up frustrated with them because they haven't done what you've expected, rather than us just looking at the situation for what it is. So I've tried to find ways in my life to remove expectation to stop me being frustrated. But then I think still in life, like, that is me being a control freak in some ways. And we're all control freaks in our own way. We all have a sense of control in our own way. And my control comes from trying to control my expectations, trying to not be disappointed by life, and trying to not be a disappointment to other people. So it's actually learning to accept life for what it is, that life goes how it will go. We can't control the outcome. We can't control what happens to us or what happens to other people. I think even my relentless pursuit to understand myself and others also falls into this. To be more flexible within my mind comes from also trying to not be disappointed by life. And once again, it's a huge strength, but in some ways it's a weakness because it's still within that idea of how can I control how the world turns out? And I simply can't. It's also exhausting. It's exhausting constantly looking for this idea of control, and like how to control the world, and being flexible and constantly molding yourself to everything. But this frustration comes from unmet expectations. And when I'm feeling low, when my mood is low, I think a lot of us see it when we're sick as well. We expect ourselves to be healthy all the time. We expect our bodies to work the way we want them to work. We expect our lives, our jobs, our friendships, our connections to go smoothly. And probably 98% of the time, for most of us, they do. But it's when it becomes more frustrating. Like I see it happen with work, not my current work, but in the working environment, where frustration begins to chip away at us. We start to go, well, my job's not doing this for me. My job's not doing this for me. Hold on a second. I don't feel seen, valued, or supported as a person. And you see the frustration build within the work environment and the anger, and people end up showing up not wanting to be there, but feeling like they have to be there in order to survive. And it just ends up with your whole body resenting that space and that environment. Yet we still show up. And because we're still showing up, we create this sense of distrust with ourselves because we're not listening to the complete and utter frustration that we're having in that moment. It's not the fact that we have to actually leave our jobs, but it's actually going, well, why am I so frustrated? My reframe that really helped me when I was au pairing was rather, what are they doing for me? Which they were doing a lot. They were putting a roof over my head. I was, being taken in by this family. Honestly, they're amazing for me. But there was a period where I was really struggling and I felt frustrated because suddenly expectations weren't going how I wanted them to go. And I started to feel really frustrated. And when I changed my mindset from what can I be doing for them rather than what are they doing for me, my whole life changed, because it put me back into my power. It put me back into taking action. And that was another period of frustration as well, where I was feeling low. I was wanting to go back to the UK, but then I was also wanting to stick it out because I wanted to prove to myself that I wasn't a failure. But then the situation was telling me that I was a failure because I was feeling so frustrated and so angry and just exhausted, and I didn't know what to do. But the minute I took myself out of the frustration, the minute I breathed into it and went, hold on a second, what is it I can do in this moment? What is it I can do for myself in this moment to feel better? So just now, for example, I was lying in bed kind of going, well, what do I want to do? And I just thought, do you know what, for a second, just lie in this, just sit in this feeling of frustration. And I sat in it. And then I spoke to ChatGPT a bit just to kind of explore the feeling and what I could do, because I've got lots of options and I just wasn't choosing them. I was like, I want to do things, but I don't know what I want to do. And I guess for me, I'm looking for the perfect solution. I'm looking for the perfect moment to help me snap myself out of my frustration. I'm looking for the perfect environment, the perfect situation, the perfect activity to make me feel better. And it was just generally the case of interacting with the world and seeing what comes of it. So in this case, I ended up writing and reflecting a tiny bit, and then I was like, actually, that gives me an idea, and then that led to me recording. So it's sometimes thinking about the frustration from the sense of, how can I engage with this? How can I take my expectations away from other people and put it back into myself? So what is it I can do in this moment to bring myself joy, to bring myself love, to bring myself happiness? In some cases, it could just be sitting with it and just accepting it. And like, for example, last year, I pretty much had the flu for a month, on and off. And I felt so much peace within that. And I was just like, do you know what? It's just, for me, probably it was an excuse to actually relax. Because I couldn't do anything. I could just sit in front of the TV and do nothing all day. And I loved that. But I also felt like rubbish. And I could have easily been frustrated that I wasn't able to do anything, that I wasn't able to work or get money from work because I was working agency then. Or I could be frustrated that I wasn't feeling any better. But I guess for me, I was like, as long as I'm better by my ski trip, I'll be absolutely fine. And I was. But if that wasn't the case, then I probably would have been really frustrated if I couldn't go on that trip, or if I was on that trip and I still felt sick. So yeah, it's, I guess, recognizing how you can relax into the moment. Like, if you're feeling frustrated, take a bit of time out and just breathe. Just breathe into it. And then ask yourself, what is the cause of this right now? What is the story I'm telling myself right now that is making me feel this way? And you might end up coming to a understanding which gives you a solution rather than dwelling in it and feeling rubbish in it. In some cases as well, it might be something completely out of your control. Like right now, my own frustration is my inner world and my inner dialogue for me. So it is the case of just snapping myself out of it and getting on with life, because I have too much time to think. If you can't tell the way I communicate, the reason I can talk this long is because I constantly think. But yeah, it's Is it the case that you just need to be snapped out of something? Is it the fact that you are so fixated on controlling something that is outside of your control? You just need to take a step back and put your energy into something you can control. Even if it's, do you know what? I can't control this situation right now. It's so big. I'm going to give myself a moment to take a step back from it, go and have a shower, go and have a good meal, or just take a tiny bit of time out to breathe. There's a really good app called the Triple Flame. And it's like a meditation. You can set up your own meditation, and you can set up for 3 minutes, 5 minutes, or 10 minutes, I think. And you can say whether you want music with it or a guide or whatever. You can select different options, or there is actually guided meditations of it. And I find that really good. Like, for example, yesterday I was at work and I just wanted a moment to go and breathe. And I went to do another job where I was isolated for a moment. And I did the job. And in the background, I had the meditation. And it was just for me to have a timer. But while I was doing the job, I was like, okay, focus on your breathing while you're doing this. So it was an active meditation rather than a passive meditation. So I was sat there going, okay, breathe in for this amount of time, breathe out. And I just kept focusing on my breathing, making sure that I made it, like, put it deep into my stomach, and just gave myself that active engagement of just breathing in and letting go, breathing in and letting go. And I did that for about 5 minutes while I was doing the job and then walking back. And that was the reset I needed to lift my mood up, along with the sun coming out. I think actually seeing the sun, because if you've been in the UK at the moment, it's been raining an awful lot, like an awful lot. So I also saw the sun, and I think that brightened my day as well. But I started the day really negatively, and I felt it. And I carried, like, as I said, my thoughts started out being miserable. I think that was on the previous episode, actually. But my thoughts started out being quite negative. And then I got to work, and my dialogue with people wasn't negative per se, but it was still carrying that, oh, I don't want to be here energy. And I love my job. I absolutely love my job. I love my interactions with people, and I love what I do. But I just didn't. I was so tired. I was just like, I don't want to be here. And I was stuck in my little gremlin energy. And I felt like I was just like, I wasn't an energy vampire, but I felt like it. And it just carried throughout the day. And I think depending on your mood, like, it feeds into other people's moods, and you create this like collective energy with people, like a little cesspot of negativity. And I think we were all just feeling it anyway. And then I went and did my little breathing in another room. And I came back, and suddenly it was like I'd returned to myself, and it was like, oh, she's back, she's positive, today's great, life is great, I love the world again. I think food probably helped as well. Food always helps for me. But it was a real shift, and it's just giving ourselves those moments. And what I guess I'm trying to say here is it doesn't have to be anything dramatic. It can just be giving yourself the space to go for a walk and put some headphones in. Sometimes even just going to the toilet and just giving yourself a breather. Like, you don't have to keep pushing past the frustration or the negativity, because I think that is one thing a lot of us are taught to do, is I'm annoyed right now, but I don't have the time to deal with it. I'm frustrated right now, but I don't have the time to sit down and fix it. So instead we ignore it, and then it builds and builds and builds and builds and builds until we break, until we explode, until we feel so frustrated that we end up crying or being sick and needing to take time off. So it's giving ourselves that moment to just reset. It's like someone just presses that reset button for you, and you're like, great, I feel so much better now. The more we give ourselves those small little moments of reset in the day, I think the better we will feel. I think that's why, like, a coffee break, people take up smoking. Like, I do think it's just people want an excuse to reset. And sometimes it's having the permission to do that. And the permissions come often in a workplace through, I'm going to go grab a coffee, or I'm going to go for a smoke. Like, it's giving ourselves that permission. But there are other ways to do it. There are other ways to find that. And maybe as well, if you are in a work environment and you find this is something a lot of people are having, like there's a build-up of frustration or negativity within the work environment, is there a way you can create it as part of the work culture where people can go and have that pause, can go and have that breather, just something to reset? Even if it's like, for example, the bell rings, you all have to get up and have a little happy dance for 5 minutes. Like, that is an extreme case because I know some people will just want the world to swallow them up in that moment. But it could be anything. It could be, right, the bell's gone off. You all have permission to, for 5 minutes, just breathe and reset. To shake it off, because shaking is such an important thing. I went to a choir, I don't know what you call it, like circle. It's a combination of yoga, movement, and dance, I would say, with the essence of spirituality. Someone else might be able to reframe this better than me. Maybe I'll get one of the girls onto the episode and they can explain it better. But the thing I found about that, it came to my life at a really beautiful time because a relationship had ended. I was feeling a lot of residual pain around it. So I was getting on with life, and that's the thing, isn't it? That's where the frustration builds, because I was getting on with life. I was just getting on with it. And actually, it was the reset I needed. I was doing well. I was absolutely fine, but I ended up going to this little festival where there was this choir circle, and it was talking about like shaking, like how animals shake when they're being attacked. They almost shake it off, and I see it with my dog, and even like the way kids move sometimes, they'll just suddenly come up with this like really random like movement, and it's a somatic movement. It's us getting rid of that energy. And I think that's why I find dancing and flow, like most of my flow activities, like fire spinning and stuff like that, I find it so healing and cathartic for me, because I'm shaking off the residue. I'm shaking off that moment. And it was really beautiful because it took you through a series of like different steps where you embrace different energies. So like the one that can't control things, the one that can control things, and just letting it move through your body and letting the music align with that as well. And yeah, shaking. I've said this to my friends as well, like when they're in a really difficult place and struggling to sleep, or they're messaging me because they're overwhelmed, I'm like, just shake. And then I send them a stupid video of me shaking, like lying on my bed with my arms like a, why do I think of something dead, upside down, just lying there, and then just like shaking really randomly and in a silly way, just, which brings them joy as well. It makes them laugh, and then it gets them out of that moment. Laughter's also a really good thing, like having something where maybe the alarm is a silly noise that just shakes people out of their seriousness and frustration, because I think that is a lot of what it is. Children laugh so much, and there's a point that we stop laughing as much and we stop finding the silliness and joy in life. And I think the more we embrace it, because that's one thing I noticed actually yesterday when I came back from my little breathing moment, is my silliness came back, my like playfulness came back out of me. And then with that playfulness, I was able to like have a bit more humor and joke and just find the joy in the moment again, rather than focusing on the misery and sadness and gremlin attitude. So it just gave me that opportunity to just be playful. And this is also what I'm noticing with this episode as well. If you've been following along and you've listened to the previous 2 episodes, my tone and my energy is so different. And it's because I've rekindled that spark, I've rekindled that joy and that playfulness and the different sides of myself, rather than just focusing on the negative. And don't get me wrong, those moments are amazing, because they do also allow me to tap into a different perspective. They allow me to tap into another area of myself that I don't always access. And it allows me to kind of focus on something that might have been bothering me, and then eventually find the energy or the solution or the tools to get me back out of it. So it's the yin and yang. It's the two-sided coin. And I think we are complex beings. And often we expect ourselves to be one way, but actually there's so much more truth behind our embodiment and emotions and experiences. And we're allowed to be frustrated. We're allowed to expect things, but it's also giving ourselves the permission to let go. Like what I said a couple of episodes ago and what someone said to me recently is about drinking the poison and expecting someone else to suffer. Often that's what happens when we expect something or we're feeling frustration. We're drinking our own poison. We are allowing ourselves to sit within this pit of suffering. And actually what happens when we give ourselves permission to step outside of that, what happens when we give ourselves permission to move beyond it or just relax into it and go, right, I'm going to be a self-pity person for 5 minutes. I'm going to let myself wallow in it, even play with it in the sense of like, I'm going to stomp my feet. I'm going to really get angry. I'm going to shout. I don't know if you've seen those reels where couples are like, when they're angry at each other, when they're shouting at each other, they go really close up to each other's face and it's like, your breath stinks. I'm really angry at you for this reason. And it just creates this like silliness and gets us out of our head with our anger and frustration and just kind of gives us the opportunity to just be silly with it. So when we're frustrated, I think, please remind me of this, by the way. I'm saying all this stuff. I come up with great ideas, but when we're in that moment, when we're in our self-pity parade, we forget that the party can exist. We forget the tools we have available. We forget that we can create our own confetti. And that's what I'm saying, I guess, in this moment is like when you're feeling really, really, really frustrated, play into that, lean into it, allow yourself to stomp your feet, allow yourself to like, I don't know, just have a little angry dance and be like, I don't know why dancing is always a thing for me. I know how many people hate it. And I'm like, do an angry dance. Yeah, so do an angry dance, do a silly little wiggle, feel into the anger in a playful way. Like if you were letting your inner child out with your frustration, what would they do? What would an 8-year-old do when they're angry and frustrated? Let me know, please. Let me know in the comments. I would love to know the silly little things you're doing with your anger and frustration. Because I think once we make it silly, once we make it playful, we get out of that moment, out of our heads. And then from that moment, we can kind of be like, right, so how are we moving forward? What are we doing? Are we just ignoring that now and just kind of going, yeah, that happened, I'm done with it? Or is there something you can actually do about it? Because if you can't do anything about it, why are you letting it destroy you? Why are you letting it consume you? What shouldn't, right or wrong, is going on in that moment? And is there a way of just letting it go and having fun with it? Because you might as well. You can either focus on your misery or you can have fun with it and play with it and see what happens. There's also a really funny thing, and I don't know how true it is because, as I said, AI is great at the moment for dispersing false information. But there was a picture of a guy on a plane that was being hijacked by a possible suicide bomber. And most people were supposedly panicking and going like, I'm going to die in that moment. They were stuck in their loop of frustration and fear and worry and suffering. They were stuck in their suffering. And I would love to be in that moment and be like, right, I'm accepting this. If this is my last moment, how can I enjoy it? How can I find the joy in it? And this guy decided to take a selfie with the guy hijacking the plane. It turns out it wasn't even a real bomb. So yeah, he decided to take that moment and go with it and took a picture with the person who was hijacking the plane. And I think once again, that created the silliness and probably kind of also diffused the power from the situation that guy was trying to create. And yeah, like for me, someone in that moment is trying to create terror and worry, and that person's just like, hey, take a selfie with me. Like, it's creating the fun and joy and finding it in that moment. And ironically as well, I usually hate recording these episodes when my dog is continuously barking in the background. I don't know if you are able to hear him, but it really frustrates me because I have an expectation of these episodes running really smoothly and that I'm going to say the right thing and there's going to be no distraction and no noise in the background. And one of the things I'm having to do in my own mind during this episode while my dog's barking is just going, it's a part of the experience. It's a part of the authenticity. Like, at the end of the day, my dog is just wanting my dad to come home right now. He's barking. He can hear noises outside. My dog is feeling his own sense of frustration. And it's trying to find the compassion within that as well. Like, actually going, do you know what? This episode is what it is. It's going to be what it is. And I'm going to publish it for what it is. And taking myself away from that expectation and pressure and perfectionism and just letting it be. So I think that is a really nice addition to this episode, is the fact that I could get so worked up and try and edit out my dog barking, or I can just let it be what it will be and find the joy in the conversation that I'm having right now. And I would admit, this has probably been one of my favorite episodes to record. I feel like I've reconnected with myself. I feel like I found the joy in my frustration, and it's allowed me to get out of my head, get out of my self-pity parade, and access something really beautiful and, yeah, have a truthful, honest conversation. So what are you going to do today? Are you going to have a self-pity parade and dance around like a silly person? Or are you going to stick to your gremlin mindset? Who knows? But as I say always, please, please, please let me know what you think of these episodes. Let me know how they've helped you, how they've supported you. Let me know what you want to hear more of. And please share with people that you feel could find the joy in these moments, because we are all human, just trying to put ourselves out in the world, trying to survive, trying to understand our sense of being, our sense of humanness and place. So let's come together. Let's celebrate in this humanness. Let's celebrate in our self-understanding, in our joy, in our possibility. Because in truth, it sucks going through this life alone. And I think we need it more than ever to recognize that we aren't alone in this world. We are all in our own minds. We're all trapped within it. So let's let it out. Let's give others the opportunity to see all of us. And yeah, just find that kindness, as I always say, find that kindness for ourselves and others, because frustration exists within all of us. And if there is a moment where someone is projecting their frustration onto you, then just sit with them. Maybe ask them, are you okay? Are you okay, Bailey? My dog's name's Bailey. So yeah, ask them, are you okay? Or just be like, hey, I can see you're really frustrated right now. What do you need? Do you need a hug? Because it's just giving them the permission to snap out of that as well, and not taking everything so personally. So I'll leave you at that, and I wish you all the best. And I hope you're able to find some friendship or compassion towards your own frustrations. Until next time.